All right, welcome everyone to the first in a series of 5 presentations that Score Minnesota is hosting on the topic of financing in February. We have a knowledgeable group of presenters, Sba Hermison from Score, and Jennifer Poppin and Jose Alfaris from Fifth Third Bank, one of our banking partners. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and you'll be receiving a link to the video as well as the slides being shown today. Look for that email in the next day or two. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Score. What is Score? It's a nationwide organization, a nonprofit organization made up of volunteers who provide free, confidential mentoring advice and business educational services. Our chapter, which is the Minnesota chapter of Score, has nearly 90 volunteers waiting to help you develop your business. Our chapter has recently been recognized as a National Chapter of the Year and as a Diamond Chapter, which is the highest award that can be assigned. Since 1964, Score has assisted over 11 million clients. We can help you in all phases of your business, whether you're in the pre-startup, you just have an idea and you would like to bounce that idea off someone, or you actually started a business and you need help growing it, or you're in business and you'd like to be more successful, or lastly, you have a business and you're going to be exiting that business. We can help you in all phases. I'd like to just briefly talk about the other webinars in this series. So as you can see, the Practical Guide to Borrowing is today. Then we have Sba Loans next week, and next Thursday, Thinking Outside the Box for Funding Sources. There's more places than the SBA and banks. Understanding Financial Statements and Sustainability. And lastly, the financial forecasting, which is really important to see whether or not your business can make money. So lastly, I'd like to thank our sponsors and community partners. They're the ones that keep our lights on, and you can see that Fifth Third Bank is right there helping us and supporting us. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this back over. I'm going to turn it over to Sba, and you can take it from there.
Sure. Hi, welcome everyone, and thanks, Diane. And actually, I'm going to make a little correction. My name's pronounced Arsene. My last name is Hermiston. And just to also remind you, Diane was kind enough to point out the other 5 sessions in this financial theme. And just bear in mind, today's session and presentation is a very high-level presentation. And all the other 4 sessions and webinars will delve more deeply into some of the key topics. So please bear that in mind and definitely sign up for them because I think you'll find them really, really helpful. As I said, my name is Sba Hermison. I have 30+ years of experience in banking, working with all sizes of company. So I am thrilled to be here and just review with you all the different ins and outs and practical processes for getting a loan, obtaining a loan, and things that you may want to think about. And we're very lucky to also be joined by 2 bankers, Jennifer and Ruben, both from Fifth Third Bank, focusing on small business and middle market business, as well as Sba Financing. So what types of credits are there available to you? We have banks. We have large banks. These are national banks that you will recognize: Chase, Wells Fargo. There are super regional banks such as Fifth Third. You also have access to community or local banks, which tend to focus on smaller size companies and businesses. You also have government-sponsored programs such as the SBA, and there are other state-level programs that actually we will be covering as part of a more in-depth session titled the alternative fundings that may be available to you. But most banks, regardless of their size, will have areas that focus on small businesses, large businesses, middle market businesses. So there are opportunities to discuss what your needs are with different size banks and bankers who work in them. So let's cover a bit about how to find a banker. Now, most of you are probably opened up your account a while ago, your checking account, your personal account, your business account. And depending on what your level of activity is personally or as a business, you probably do most of your business online. And anytime you need cash, you do an ATM. And unless you need something very specific, you probably don't go to a branch. I don't know when was the last time I wrote a check and or went to a branch other than for work. When you do decide that you need to grow or you need to start a business and you need to go and find some form of financing, think about the branch where you originally opened up your account, your checking or savings account, and go in there. And most banks, regardless of their size, will have a business banking center. These are centers that focus on small businesses, and they can help you guide you through what the process is. Now, I will highly recommend, if you're already a SCORE mentee, that you reach out to your SCORE mentor to sort of help you think about and help you sort of manage the process with your banker or the first time that you want to prepare yourself. And you can also find other helpful information on our website. If you do not have a SCORE mentor, then I would highly recommend that you go to our website and find out how you may be matched up with one. Later on, we will show you how to access our website. So, obtaining credit, at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Jen, who's going to talk about, give you an overview of obtaining credit from a bank.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be on this call. So, credit worthiness. What is credit worthiness, and what are the factors that lenders and creditors may use to learn about your financial history? So what credit worthiness essentially does is it measures you and your business's ability to borrow money and repay a loan. If lenders and creditors think that you're likely to repay the debt, they will deem you and or your business worthy of receiving credit. So things they measure are shown there on the screen. Have you paid past financial obligations in full and on time? Has your spending been prudent and within your personal budget? Do your overall habits reflect financial responsibility? Do you have stable personal income or business revenue to pay all your financial obligations? You might hear this referred to as cash flow. Has your business been in existence and generating revenue for a few years? Typically, lenders want to see at least 2 years of history, but of course, there are lending options available for startup companies, typically through the SBA channel. Do you have a history, of following? So before approving your application, lenders and creditors evaluate your credit worthiness based on the 5 C's of credit, which are the 5 qualities that demonstrate how risky it may be for them to lend you money. So what are the 5 C's of credit? When you apply for the loan, the lender will evaluate your request to determine whether it is a good decision to lend you and your business money. A common evaluation framework is those 5 C's of credit, which are capacity, capital, collateral, character, and conditions. So what capacity is, it's important to lenders because it shows your ability to repay debts from any current and future income. So things that you would want to ask yourself: do you have enough personal income and business revenue to pay your bills, existing debt, and any new debt that you're looking to obtain? Has your business shown a sufficient history of profitability? And what indicators are there that profits will continue to be sufficient into the future? Capital is important to lenders because it indicates how committed you are and how much money you will lose if the business fails. So some considerations to ask yourself: how much of your own money have you invested in your business? That's your skin in the game. Are your assets higher than your liabilities? Collateral is important to lenders because it provides lenders a means to recoup or get back the loan in the event you cannot repay the loan as agreed. A loan is considered secured when specific assets or collateral are committed to a creditor in the case of an inability to repay the loan. So this reduces the overall risk to the lender. So you should consider, do you have any assets such as vehicles, real estate, or equipment that could function as collateral? Will the credit be used to purchase assets that can be used as collateral, such as a piece of commercial real estate or any of the items listed previously? And what is the value of those assets? Character is also important to lenders because it shows your trustworthiness and commitment to your financial obligations. So considerations are, do you have a history of paying your financial obligations in full and on time? Do you have a good track record of holding a job or managing a profitable business? And have you ever declared bankruptcy? And finally, conditions are important to lenders because they describe how you'll use the loan and whether the economy or other external factors will affect your ability to repay the debt. So some things to think about would be, what opportunities and risks does your company face from changes in your industry or the economy? What are current trends within your industry? Are similar companies expanding or contracting? What competitive edge does your business have? And how will this loan improve your business's profitability, efficiency, or stability? Now that you know a little bit more about the factors that lenders and creditors consider when evaluating creditworthiness, let's apply some of this information to a scenario. So in this case study, we'll review So Right. So Jovina is a 46-year-old entrepreneur who wants to expand her small sewing business, So Right. She started the business as a hobby from her home and began selling to her friends and family. 2 years ago, her daughter made a website for the business and sales skyrocketed. Jovina was able to start paying off her personal loans from the income. She currently has 3 credit cards, 1 business and 2 personal. She pays her credit cards and personal loans on time. She always pays more than the minimum balance, but she has never paid off any debt in full. She owns a car that she has had for 8 years and rents an apartment. Jovina hasn't had other employment since having her children 15 years ago. Consider Jovina's credit card history. What are some things that might impact her ability to pay a loan? Which of the 5 C's? So looking at this, considering this case study, capacity and character could potentially have that. Both capacity and character may be affected because Jovina's credit history of repaying loans and credit cards on time reflects positively on her character. However, her capacity is limited because she has outstanding balances on those credit cards. Also consider the number of assets that Jovina owns. What would be the C or C's that will her asset ownership affect when a lender is considering whether to give her a loan? So collateral is obviously the one C that would have an impact on that. Currently, the only asset that she owns is an 8-year-old car whose value has likely depreciated over time. Since she does not own any other significant assets to put up for collateral, the number of assets she owns will likely negatively affect her ability to get the loan. Some other considerations that might affect are her employment history, which could affect her capacity, which could be limited depending on her income history and ability to repay debts. It could also affect her character. And her personal loan debt could also impact her credit worthiness, specifically her capacity and character, as well as the amount of capital that she has available to invest in her business.
Thank you, Jen. Jen went through the 5 C's of credit and outlined the important items that a banker will look like when trying to decide on a loan. There are other questions that they will also consider. There are going to be the background or general questions. This could be anywhere from how are you going to run the business? What are your intentions for growth? About your product, what are your plans? So these are just more general questions so they can get to know what you are thinking. Management and employee questions. How many people are going to run the business? Is it going to be reliant on only one person? Who's going to manage the operations? What is the experience level? Have you done something like this before? What type of expertise are you relying on? Then there will be business operation questions. Where is this business going to be run out of? Is there enough capacity if you're growing? If it's a new business, are you going to rent? Are you going to buy? Are you going to do it, from your basement? There's a lot of questions that they will ask about what are you envisioning in terms of the operations? Then, of course, there'll be financial questions, those that Jen had outlined, as well as others, and then personal questions as well, which basically goes back to character, behavior, and history. There is one very, very critical data point that I'm going to refer to that will effectively follow all your life. It's called the Fico Score. You've probably heard about it. You've seen ads on TV about it. You've heard a lot of financial advisors talk about it. There is also an equivalent business score. A banker always pulls that information. They are allowed to do so. There are 3 agencies that provide a DNB, Business Experian, and Equifax, and FICO, which is Fair Isaac's company, is sort of the premier provider of these business scores. FICO is important to you as an individual, and if you're starting a business, because of the lack of history, they will rely on your FICO score until the business has seasoned and you have a business score. Why is FICO important? You want to buy a car, you want to lease a car, you want to get your first mortgage. What is the banker going to do? They're always going to look for your FICO credit score. They are similar in both the business and the personal FICO score are important because, again, they're judging your abilities and your past ability of how you've managed your debt, how you managed your credit, what are your outstanding credit card debt. Did you pay them on time? If you are a business, how did you handle your suppliers? Did you pay them on time? Do you owe anyone? Have you filed for bankruptcy? Are there any liens or judgments against you? So it does provide a very good history of your behavior as an individual and how you ran your business. Where do they draw all these information from? Multiple places. And what they do is they rank everything. They have an internal ranking system, which they use. And through that, they come up with a score. They check with your vendors. They check with your loan, where you got your car, where you leased your car. They have all that information on file, which they can draw upon and see what your history has been. And the business credit report that you get is depending on what you are, a business or an individual, it's an amalgamation of everything. The business credit report focuses more on your business, your organization, how did you manage? So there's some qualitative and some quantitative information that there is. If you're publicly, large public company, you know, SEC filings are where all the public documents, 10Ks and 10Qs, and these are various statements that public companies have to file, are kept and provided to. Your credit history about your assets, how did they perform? Those could be your receivable collection cycles in your inventory and your payables. Additional business ownership, who owns you? Is it transparent? Are there several owners? Are there holding companies? And your commercial credit score, your ability to repay in the future based on your historical trends, and then of course your potential risk for failure. And this is very critical because it then hints to bankruptcy, and if you're over leveraged, meaning you have too much debt vis-a-vis your cash flow, and hence you're always delayed, or you consistently are delayed in making your payments. And just to reiterate what Jen just said, how do you keep your good credit score? Very important. Make sure your bills are paid on time. Keep your credit card balances low. Pay them off as you get cash or income, and don't let them add up. Make sure that your financial statements for the last 3 years record healthy financial behavior. It is highly recommended that you can pull your own scores, is to be able to go in and make sure there are no mistakes. Sometimes you have paid off something, but they have not captured that piece of information. So always look at it. Make sure some credit card companies provide that information for free. American Express, Visa, you know, they will say, you know, there's been an update to your credit score. So you can probably go in there and just double check. You know, sometimes there are accounts that were closed many years ago and that information has not been updated. So very, very good habit to get into and make sure that your credit score is truly reflective of your behavior. Make sure that there are subscription-based credit reporting services as well. So if you are a business, you may want to consider those. And also borrowers can share that, and lenders can probably share that information with you as well. And also if you're dealing with your vendors, make sure that they report your good credit when you pay them on time. So these are all factors you should keep in mind when you do review your credit scores, especially if you're a business as well as an individual, because it does impact, you know, we all know our credit scores impact anywhere from interest to how much loan we get. So here's a checklist. It's a good checklist that should you be approaching a bank for a loan. You will be asked to fill out a business credit application. They will ask for obviously your personal credit report that we just discussed. They will need 3 years of your personal tax returns and your business tax returns and your business financial statements. The reason why they go back 3 years is so that they have a history of the trend. So that, for example, you're not only looking at 1 year. Let's say all of a sudden, due to some very specific reason, for 1 year, your sales are very high because there's some spike in demand for some trendy reason, or it's just the way, you know, the cycle turns. So bankers don't want to lend on 1 year if it's a very good year, and they don't want to land on a year that's a very bad year, and they try to look at what the historical trend is so that they can make a fair decision. They ask you for your personal financial information because 99% of the time, if you are a small business, you will be asked to provide your personal guarantee. Again, the combination of your personal wherewithal as well as the strength of the company's financial statement allows the banker to have a more holistic approach to you and your credit and be able to make a decision as to how much credit worthiness there is. They will ask if you have a business where you have contracts and purchase orders, they will ask for that for that information so that they can see how your business operates and that indeed there is a business against which they can lend. They would like to see your business or other loan agreements that you may have. This will help the banker understand how much cash is available to pay all of the obligations, because they're not just making a judgment on their loan, they're making a judgment on your overall balance sheet and what your overall debt profile looks like and what do you owe on a monthly basis to other creditors. Your business license, very important. Are you officially, legally allowed to do your business in the state that you are incorporated? So they would like to see that organization know piece of information. And also, what other businesses do you own? You or your partners, or anything you may have a partnership interest in. The banker needs to see your whole organization and how they fit together. And most importantly, they would like to see a business plan. It's a plus, but not required, but it's very important because it accomplishes a couple of things. One, it lets the banker know you really thought things through. You know how you're going to get from point A to point B, and you sort of looked at and analyzed every step of the way. And also, it creates a roadmap of how you're going to run your business. If you're growing your business, how you plan to grow it. And it's a very good confidence building exercise, but also it helps you and the bank to monitor your progress against this plan. And it's a good source for discussion, and it's a good source for monitoring performance on an ongoing basis. And also, just all of these items are items that you can discuss with your score mentor that can help you and make you further understand or be able to guide you into what types of information you will be needed. But definitely, as I said, if you do have a score mentor, reach out to them. And if you do not, highly recommend it that you should look into joining SCORE. Now I'm going to hand it off to Ruben, who's going to talk to you about what types of credit are available to you through the different size banks that we just discussed. Ruben?
Good morning. Sorry for the delay in joining, but I think finally I got my technical problems resolved. So as far as commercial lending, again, whether it's on the SBA side, the types of credit that we can offer are working capital loans. Usually that can be permanent working capital for a company, or if it's something that it can be used to fill the gap between receivables and accounts payable, that can be done in the form of a line of credit. Term loans, again, can go anywhere from 5 to 7 years as far as working capital when it comes to the SBA. On the SBA side, an equipment loan, it is a term loan, and it could go anywhere from 10 to 15 years. Again, that would depend on the life span of that equipment. An example of some larger terms, such as 15 years, that we've experienced has been some heavy construction equipment. The lifespan on those can actually be 10, 15, even up to 20 years, depending on the equipment. So there is flexibility on the terms, depending on the use of the proceeds. And commercial mortgages, which can be used to purchase commercial real estate, refinance commercial real estate, or we do construction to permanent if you're building, if you have the land and you do a construction loan for your operation.
Ruben, are you in a position that you can turn on your video?
Yes.
We like to see people's faces.
Well, it is giving me a message that says you cannot start your video because your host has stopped it.
Okay, let me. Yep, here we go. Go ahead, try it now. How's that? Ah,
okay.
So much better.
Y'all see my ugly face?
Cute.
So why SBA financing? And there are several advantages to the bank and to the client when it comes to providing SBA financing. SBA offers loans that are actually the bank would fund the loan, and the SBA, depending on the program and the use of proceeds, will provide the bank either a 50% guarantee on an express loan, a 75% guarantee on a 7A loan, and on 7A international trade loans, they actually provide up to 90% guarantees. The key advantages to an SBA loan are that the terms are generally longer compared to a conventional loan. There are no balloons. The loan does not mature after 5 or 10 years. They are fully amortizing. In the case of real estate, for example, it would be a 25-year loan. If you were comparing that to a commercial conventional loan, real estate loan, it would have a 25-year amortization, but the loan would come due typically after 10 years. So the long-term financing, the long terms in financing SBA loans are one big advantage. The other advantage is that the underwriting criteria, comparing it to a conventional loan criteria, are much more relaxed. So that opens up the possibility to fund loans that typically on the conventional side would not be able to get underwritten to meet the criteria. And the reason we can do that is because given those guarantees that I mentioned before, that would offset the risk of the more lax underwriting criteria. As an SBA prospect or client, most banks that you work with would have an SBA division with dedicated folks along all lines. So we, for example, would work directly and hand in hand with you throughout the application, approval, and closing process, and are there to ask any questions. We also work closely with you so that we can propose a loan with the terms that are most agreeable to you and your business and beneficial to the bank as well. With the SBA loans, there are 3 basic SBA loan programs. The 7A loan program, the maximum loan is $5 million. And really the important thing, this is the catch-all program. It can be used for working capital, startup businesses, business expansion, equipment purchase, real estate, refinance, construction, purchase, and business acquisitions or partner buyouts. So there's really no very little limits as to how you can use the funds for a 7A loan. In most instances, whether you're buying a business or you're buying some real estate, typically the minimum requirement is that the borrower come in with 10% down payment / equity, and the bank will typically finance up to 90% of the loan. The SBA Express and Veteran Program, that is a program that the maximum is $350,000. And for this current SBA year, there are no guarantee fees associated with that program. So it's a good way to save some money on the closing costs. The business in most instances has to be operational for at least 1 full calendar year. And we would typically like to see 1 calendar year tax return. It can be structured as a line of credit where it would revolve up for a certain period and then term out, or it could be a term loan such as, excuse me, a permanent working capital loan or an equipment purchase loan. It is more expedited than the regular 7A. The underwriting the analysis is not as extensive as 7A, and the closing process is, the requirements are less than your standard 7A loan. And again, they can be used for working capital, equipment purchase, even real estate, if you can find real estate for less than $350,000 nowadays. And the minimum 10% requirements apply to those as well, except for working capital. If you get a working capital line or loan, there is no down payment or equity injection required. The 504 loan.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The 504 loan is really used to finance fixed assets such as real estate, heavy construction equipment, for example, or manufacturing equipment. And that is typically set up with the borrower coming in with 10% down. The CDC, which is a nonprofit organization that works with the SBA to provide funding, provides 40% and the bank 50% loan. So you typically will have a 504 loan where you have a first mortgage or a first position at 50%, and then the SBA provides a second loan for that additional 40%, and the borrower, as I said, comes in with that minimum 10%. There are several alternatives for funding. However, I caution folks that when you work with your bank, most typically the flow is that your banker will look at your request, see if it does meet conventional criteria. If it does, then that is the way to move forward. If there are some deficiencies such as collateral or other deficiencies that may not meet a bank's conventional credit criteria, then we move on to the SBA alternative. There are some microloans, other alternatives out there. I just want to caution that you really want to stay away from a lot of these loans that are advertised, such as advances on your merchant services or these high interest loans that they can fund it to you in 24 hours, but you're probably going to be paying 30% interest. So a lot of folks get in trouble doing that, and also try to avoid credit card teasers where there's no interest up front, after even up to a year, but after that interest kicks in. And we've seen a lot of folks get into problems with those types of alternative financings. There are some legitimate one out there, but the safest route, and in most cases, would be SBA lending, except from some micro loan programs.
Thank you. And you may have noted a couple of asterisks in this section, and that refers to there will be an in-depth coverage of both the alternative sources of funding as well as SBA in the webinars that are forthcoming.
Correct.
Thanks. So let's summarize what we've covered today. We learned about the 5 C's of credit, their importance in importance for banks to make a decision on the credit worthiness of a client, a prospective borrower. Basically, what is being judged is the behavior and the ability of that specific business and or individual to make good on their loan. So it's a very important groundwork that you should think about as you want to build your business or grow your business. Also, if you are running a new or small business and you don't have a lot of credit history, you will be asked to both provide a personal guarantee as well as your personal history will be looked at as a measure of your credit worthiness. Again, very important to focus on your FICO scores, make sure you review them frequently and that the information is correct, because this is a very important element in a bank's decision to proceed with a loan, and also how much. Also, you may require, if you are a small business that is not in existence, but you would like to start a new business, you will need to have and consult a lawyer, making sure that your legal organization is properly in place, and also that all your financial documents are in order and are prepared correctly. So just to reiterate again, and I know I have mentioned this throughout the presentation, SCORE is here to help every step of the way, whether you are an existing mentee, a client, and or someone who's thinking about help and the services that SCORE provide. This is our website. We are the SCORE Minnesota region. You have the URL minnesotascore.org. If you want to volunteer, want to give back, you're an existing mentor, and that would be wonderful. We're always looking for folks who have benefited from us and who now would like to give back. If you want to find a mentor, this is where you will go. We have mentors that have different business experiences from all different industries and sectors, whether it be technology, whether it be finance, accounting, legal. So there's a wealth of information available to you that you should take advantage of. And again, we are a not-for-profit, so it's all free for you and available to you. You have workshops similar to this. There's a library actually of all the previous workshops organized by topics, so you can sign up to take a look at them and review them and listen to them and look at them at your own leisure. There are also upcoming webinars that you'll be aware of, and you can join similar to this one. There's also podcasts that we do. We also have various publications and newsletters that you benefit from once you become a Score client. There's also, what's really great is online resource library. For example, we discussed the importance of a business plan. Over there, you can find all the tools of how to prepare this, how to proceed, how to organize your thoughts. So there's a lot of also good resources and online resources in the library that you can use when you're preparing your discussions with a banker. And again, your Score mentor, if you already have one, should be able to help you with that. And here are some of the resources, just the URLs of the workshops, the webinars, the library, finding a mentor, and the overall organization that gives you quick access and a little description of what they provide. And here are more details on our Score partner banks, just in case you need to reach out to them. You have the information. And more importantly, are there any questions?
What a great presentation. Thank you all for your sharing your knowledge with our community. At the moment, there's only one question. It's actually, I think, a very good question. Alfonso wants to know, is it best to build personal credit before business credit, or does it actually matter when obtaining business credit?
I'll let two of the bank, Jen, did you want to take that one? I'm happy as well, but why don't you go ahead and then I can help out.
So it is most certainly beneficial to you to build personal credit prior to seeking business credit. And the reason for that being, specifically for the owners of the business, in most instances, you will be required to provide a personal guarantee on the lending for your business. So without any personal credit history or any of those 5 C's of credit for the bank to evaluate, it may be very difficult for you to then obtain financing for your business because they have nothing to judge it on if you personally don't have credit for them to evaluate.
If I also may add to that, you should view your personal credit, in my mind, as sort of a journey. I think it starts from almost when you're in college, or you are just starting out, because it is a historical build. It's from your first credit card to your first car loan or lease to your first mortgage. It really impacts you through your life. So it's very critical to start building a good foundation and a good trend. And then it's almost like the rest will sort of come from that, because your behavior has already been set, and lenders can see that.
And if I can add one comment, it is important, highly important. It is extremely important that you build and have good credit, personal credit on a startup situation, because on a startup situation, we're going to analyze our repayment ability based strictly on projections, nothing historical. So we're really going to rely on that guarantor's character, that guarantor's personal debt. So if you have a ton of personal debt and you're trying to start up a business, that could adversely affect the ability for us to provide financing on a startup.
Thank you. Leanne wants to know, what role do partners' credit scores play in the determination?
I can add on the SBA side. On Sba Loans, any owner, so if you have more than one owner of an entity, any owner that owns 20% or more of the stock or the shares of the ownership of that entity will have to become a personal guarantor. Therefore, their personal credit scores will also be looked at and analyzed.
And that's true for non-SBA loans as well. It's very important because you're all partnering in the same business, so it's all the same in terms of your credit scores as well.
One from Dimitri. Dimitri's business is is established and their social media is in place, but we don't have credit because of COVID. Can we still qualify for a grant?
I can speak of on the SBA side. That's if your company's established, you don't have any operational history yet, whether it's because of COVID or just too recently started. The SBA would probably be your best route to consider. We do startup loans, so this would be considered a startup loan. The fact that your entity is already set up and you've got structure in place is great, and it's actually a head start, but we would treat it as a startup loan.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ruben.
Yeah, so lack of no business history is not, would not prevent you from applying. We would just treat it as a startup loan.
Yeah, and I think a conventional bank would be a little less, would be more conservative in its approach. And unless you have outside assets of the business or a very strong guarantor, I agree with Rubens that your best route would be to approach the SBA until you sort of seasoned a little bit, and then you can always later on go to a more conventional type of loan.
I agree. Typically, if you're in business for less than 2 years, the best option would be SBA financing. Most banks on the conventional side want to see at least 2 years of refiled tax returns and financial history to really go the conventional route.
Dimitri follows up with a question that I think I can even answer. Should I talk to my mentor?
Yes.
Yes, is the answer. Absolutely. And if your mentor doesn't know the answer, ask your mentor to find someone to co-mentor with you and them who knows the answer to this, because we have mentors with experience in all avenues of business. Okay, Leanne has another question. I've purchased 20 acres for my business. My gosh. Will that count towards my portion of the equity for a startup?
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Yes, it does. We would be able to, the value of that land, we would be able to put that towards your equity injection into the project if you're going to be constructing, let's say, a building on that location. Ruben, I don't know if you have any additional to add there.
Yes, as long as that real estate is owned free and clear, then we would consider the equity. Even if there is, let's say you own $1 million piece of property and you have a $500,000 loan on it, and you wanted to build, we would refinance that outstanding $500,000 and would consider the other $500,000 as equity for the overall value of the property. So yes, and it how it works out depends on what it's going to be used for. But the simple answer is yes.
Oh, Leanne says she paid cash free and clear.
You don't need financing, Leanne. You're rich.
250 acres free and clear. I think Ruben is right. Yeah. You are rich. All right, Alfonso, what type of SBA loan can a new business startup qualify for that doesn't have a minimum of 3 years of financials?
As a startup, you don't have to have any historical financials. So as a startup, what we will focus on, again, is your personal credit, your personal income, and a solid business plan.
Great. Just a
and
follow
then that's
up.
where the SCORE mentors would come into play, because they could assist you with creating and developing your business plan to include 3 years worth of financial projections. And they typically want to see month to month for the first year and then annualized for years 2 and 3.
And not phantom numbers, right? Some concrete,
realistic numbers preferred, please.
A follow-up from Leanne, who says that was all she had. I think she's talking about the money that she put all
put it all in. Well, real estate is most certainly an excellent investment.
Excellent.
And I'm gonna bank on the fact that maybe you were able to snatch all that land up before this real estate market started going crazy like it has been lately.
Exactly. And Anonymous wanted to know how to find a mentor. And again, I can answer that. Let's go to
we'll go back to that, yeah.
minnesota.score.org, minnesota.score.org. You can see the website address at the bottom. There is a button, if not two buttons on that screen generally, that say, want a mentor? Click to find a mentor. And you'll fill out a simple form. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and what you're looking for, what kind of help you're looking for. And a mentor will be assigned to you. And as I referenced earlier, your initial mentor may not know all the answers. I know I don't know all the answers about business, but they can bring in co-mentors for one or more sessions who can fill in the blanks on all of your business needs. So it really is the best way to get started. If you don't have a SCORE mentor, you really should consider applying for one. My mentor called within 24 hours. She is amazing, says Dimitri. Well, we're all amazing on some level. I like to think we are in any event. I think that is all of the questions. There was a kind of a side conversation that went on in the chat where Craig was asked for a pre-approval letter from a bank just to get a realtor to show him availability. Is this common? And
so, some banks on the SBA side I can speak of, we do. We collect some financial information up front, preliminary financial information, and provide you a very basic pre-qual letter saying, were you to acquire real estate, this would be the maximum loan amount that you at this time would qualify for. However, some banks are not willing to do that, so it really depends from bank to bank.
Interesting answer. Yes, someone else had answered, one of the other attendees had answered and said that's not uncommon. And I think, you know, realtors don't want to show you $3 million properties when all you can afford is a $350,000.
Correct.
Yep. That was me that made that comment. And I know, especially on the personal mortgage side, and I don't know if that was where Craig was going or if he's looking for a commercial mortgage, but it's very more so common on the personal side where realtors want to see that pre-approval letter in hand, especially in today's market.
Wonderful. Well, our Q&A is blank. Let me just scroll down to the, can I see the slide 2 back, please? Well, you're actually, Leon, you're going to get a copy of all of these slides as well as the video that should come in the next day or two. And you'll be able to spend all the time you want looking at each of the slides. So I think that will help considerably.
And also, I'm going to offer, if you do have questions subsequent to reviewing the slides, just feel to reach out to me or anyone else. I think our emails were posted, Diana?
They were not posted.
Okay, they're not posted. Well, there's means of reaching out, I guess, from.
If you're reaching a SCORE volunteer, it's our first name, our last name at scorevolunteer.org. You could give that a go, or I don't know what.
Well, if they go through, they could probably get the name and everything through the SCORE website as well.
All right. Well, with that, I say we have no more questions, and you guys did an amazing job. I thank you so much. Jen popped her email. That was a good idea. Jen,
yeah, I was going to do mine. You do it in the chat room?
Yes, put it in the chat.
Okay, I'm going to do mine as well then.
Okay, and make sure that it is for everyone to see, and that would be.
I'm changing that now because I had responded to Craig's question about our pre-approval process here for financing on the SBA side.
Right. I think that only went to Craig. There it is, to everyone.
There's to everyone.
There's to everyone. Wonderful.
If I can make one closing comment, is I have a long personal history with SCORE. My dad was a SCORE years ago, volunteer. I always encourage new customers or new borrowers or new business owners and existing business owners to take advantage of Score and leverage all the sources that you guys provide. It really incredible, very, very, very experienced folks, and most of all, it's free.
It is free. It's certainly affordable.
All
right.
Okay, there you go. I put in mine as well.
Wonderful. Thank you all for participating, and thank you attendees for coming. Come back next week and we'll have